Before we jump into the meat of the call, we're going to spend 30, 40 minutes on, morning routine, being very intentional about what you do in the morning and why that's effective. But I do want to spend like we normally do. I want to spend about 10, 15, probably not as much time as we normally do, but 10, 15, maybe 20 at the most minutes on dealing with questions that you guys have from a weekly standpoint. What items are you running into? What items have gotten you frustrated this week? What items maybe have you learned that the rest of the team can learn from? But what are some questions, concerns, things that are coming up that we can cover in the first 15 minutes or so before we get into the meat of the call?
Hey, Mike, this is Sean. I caught yesterday, and I was not giving it my full attention. I wish I had on the national conference call that they were increasing lead costs. Do you know what those costs are moving to?
I know that, and I know that on the bonus leads, they're going up to like, instead of $350, they're like $3.99, $4.99, $5.99. They're going up by like 40 or 50 cents. As far as the regular lead cost, the A lead, I don't know exactly what they are. I know they sent out new GMR forms for all the agency owners that I am supposed to look at and get back to them by May 1st. I would assume that figure is going to go up by no more than 50 cents to $1, somewhere in there. So it's not an excessive cost, but it is something they've raised it once at the very beginning when I first started. But I don't know the exact number. I can find out and share it with the team for sure, though.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure thing. All right. Anything else that you guys are dealing with, struggling with? I love the dog in the back. That is killer. I love it. It almost looks like he's strapped in. That's good stuff.
That's so cute.
Sorry, sidetracked. So anyone else have any questions or anything that they're dealing with over the week?
We got animals.
Man, no one's struggling with anything. That's amazing. No one's struggling with anything. I guess we have a struggle-free agency.
Hey, Mike. Good morning. This is Bill in Southwest Florida.
Bill, how are you?
I'm doing well, sir. Hey, real quick. Yesterday I rated something, and this is obviously for the newer agents and in Virtual Mentor, and then I clicked on the company to run a quote, and I got stymied via like a website, and I didn't know, I wasn't appointed with this company, just because kind of like a do-over, like a start over again. So if anybody has any advice on what to do with that, you're not appointed with this company. It's not Mutual of Omaha where you can run the quote, get the application, etc. I would appreciate that.
Which company was it? Was it National Life Group?
Yes, it was.
I figured it was, and that is literally because of National Life Group. So most carriers that are in that system, UHL, American Amicable, Mutual of Omaha. I'm trying to think of some of the others that, like, Transamerica's got their own quoting system. But National Life Group and AIG, those are the two companies that, in order to write anything, number one, AIG requires you to be contracted with them before you can even use their system to write anything. National Life Group requires that you be contracted with them before you can use their quoting software, because you have to have a website login in order to do that. So my suggestion, Bill, is just reach out to your upline, either utilize their login stuff temporarily or have them get you the quotes temporarily, because you won't be able to call in either. They're not going to talk to you until you're actually contracted. They are a little bit of a pain in the rear end at the very beginning. and then very easy to use and very efficient from a quoting system standpoint once you are contracted. Anyone else?
Oh, Mike, I do recall. I had another question for you. Sorry.
Sure.
So this just has to do with kind of submitting business. I have a couple of clients where I had one I had to redo his application due to that UHL PHI phone call thing where he mistakenly said he didn't sign the application. So I got that one redone and sent in. And then I have another one where I have to switch who the lady is covered by because of that MIB issue that where her MIB is wrong. And so I'm trying to switch companies with her to UHL because they don't care about the TIA per se. But if I rewrite that policy, how do I make sure that counts correctly in opt so that it doesn't double count? And that they will be different prices as well. So I'm just trying to make sure I do the numbers right for you guys.
So that's a really good question. Brings up numbers. Jen, do you want to handle that or you want me to? Okay. So generally, it depends on when you originally submitted the application. If you just recently submitted the first one, we can request that be deleted because of the situation. If it's something that potentially was a long time ago, like sometimes people write something a month ago or 2 months ago, and then they're like, oh, it got declined and was sitting for a while and I need to rewrite it. You just re-upload the application. But if you recently did the application and we're trying to make sure that the numbers reflect, then we can request it be deleted. Now, general rule of thumb, if you do submit something into opt and it gets declined, for example, for some odd reason, don't not submit the second one into opt, because sometimes people are like, well, I already submitted it. I'll just electronically send it into the carrier, and then it's already got in there once, and I don't need to. That way, my numbers won't be screwed up. No, don't do that, because legally, from a compliance standpoint, every application needs to be held. It's not only your responsibility, but it's the responsibility of the IMO to hold that application on file for the client. That's one of our obligations from a life insurance standpoint, from a state requirement. So don't hold those. It'd be better for you to just re-upload the second one, and if it was, let's say, half the credit. Hey guys, if you're not muted, definitely please mute out if you can. I'll mute you as we go through if we need to. But if let's say that the application was $1,000 and you ended up rewriting it at $700 and you put that in and it gets approved, at least it would count as like 40% net placed, because the total premium you put in was $1,700 and the $700 got placed. At least for that policy, it would be a 40% net place for that policy, rather than it being 60 or 70 by not putting in the second application, but then we don't have record of it at the carrier at the IMO standpoint. Does that make sense? Am I confusing you, or does that make sense, Sean?
No, I think that makes sense, because one of them I wrote, I think February, and it's the exact same money or whatever. So that one's the same. I just didn't know if I resubmit that into opt because it was counted, 2 months ago or whatever.
I would resubmit it into opt, because it's a totally different application. Is it with a new carrier?
Yeah.
No, the first one is with the same carrier. It's just UHL twice. They kicked the app because he answered the question no on the signature thing or whatever. So I called him up. He's like, oh, shoot, I screwed that up. I went out, got a new paper application because they required me to do it on paper with wet signature. And then I submitted that to the carrier, but I did not load it into opt. It's basically
you wouldn't need to because that's basically the same application. So you would not need to upload that into opt.
Okay, yeah, and then the second one, I'd be writing at a higher premium than the first one, and that was written just a week and a half ago or whatever. But she's going to pay a higher premium until we get the MIB figured out, and then See
Is
if
it
we
with
can
a different carrier on that one?
Yeah, that's a different carrier.
I would upload that one
Yeah.
in. Yeah, because you want that on file because it is a new application with a different carrier.
Okay.
No, those are good questions. Guys, if you have questions like that, don't just go it on your own and go rogue. Ask Jen or ask me, message your upline. You know, hey, how do I handle this? What do I need to put into ops so that things are correct? That oftentimes doesn't become important to people at the very beginning. But then when they miss one or two commission bumps and I have to decline it because, well, listen, man, you didn't hit your numbers because you didn't submit something in or your net place numbers aren't right or whatever it is, then all of a sudden it becomes important because it's all of a sudden I'm losing money because I missed a commission bump. So guys, just take our advice, be attentive to that stuff at the very beginning. Sean, those are good questions. I appreciate those questions. If anyone has one more question, let's address that. And then I know, Farrell, you said something about underwriters. I'm not sure exactly what it is that you're asking or if that was just a comment directly towards what we were talking about. But feel free to ask if you can. I know you're probably at work.
So Mike, to clarify, for instance, I had Transamerica with somebody got rate, or then we found something with AIG after. So in that case, different carrier uploaded again as a rewrite, correct?
If it's a totally different carrier, absolutely. Yeah, because you want those applications on file. If the original one was something that like you messed up, you didn't mean to, or like it's just kind of a screw up thing, then yeah, we can get those deleted, not a big deal. But if it was submitted with intention of getting placed, it got declined, it still needs to be in there because it's going to be in their MIB. We have to hold on to, I mean, all that stuff. So,
Okay.
So it's good to do that. That's a good question. Those are good questions. All
Hey,
right.
Mike, can I ask one quick question?
Absolutely. Who is this?
This is Charlie.
Charlie, good to have you.
Hey, I know we don't get declines too often, but do you have any suggestions on how to figure out why a person is declined? Because the carriers, like I've gotten one person that's declined, and I'm trying to figure out why. He doesn't have any medical issues per se. They're not really divulging why he's declined.
Yeah, that's tough. You know, again, those writers that are out there doing a lot of business, if you've got any kind of tips or insights, I would tell you that you can often really dig in deep with the client and uncover stuff there. It's usually something that they have forgotten or something that's been put in their doctor's records that they didn't think was important, or that the doctor maybe didn't disclose very specifically, but it's still in there. And there's, you know, and you might hear something like, you know, well, we kind of talked about maybe possibly I was diabetic, but we never did anything about it. You know, so that could give you a red flag for, hey, maybe he put in the records that you were diabetic, but said that you were going to treat it naturally or whatever it was. So there's no real way that the carriers aren't going to disclose that to you. Most of the time, they're not going to disclose it to you. Now, the client can request it through the MIB. I mean, they can ask what's in their records. It does take a while. And that's kind of what, I forget who it was. Was it Sean? Was that what you were saying you were having to deal with? I think, you might just have to rewrite it with another carrier until they can get the MIB stuff figured out and kind of inquire with them. But I don't know if anyone else has any other suggestions besides just really digging in with the client to uncover it and then checking with the MIB.
What has helped me a few times is if I've got the actual application and I ask them what question, if you keep it in the context of the application. I've got success with, I think, America and a couple others. Mo's a little bit more difficult, but if you keep it in the context of what question can you tell me that knocked this or basically disqualified this particular application, their tendency to tell you that a lot of times, and then you can go back to the client and say, hey, we marked no to this question, but I've had success basically keeping it in the context of the application and the specific question.
That's a really good response. I didn't even think about that. That's a good response. Does that make sense, Charlie?
Totally. I appreciate that one. Thanks.
Yeah, so just keep it in the context of the application itself, because the carrier can definitely respond to their application. They cannot respond to specific health concerns and questions as it relates to the client itself. So that's a great tip. Okay.
Charlie, this is Omar.
Yeah, Omar, go ahead.
One thing that also helps, you can ask him, was he declined for pharmaceutical or was he declined for MIB record? So if he was declined for pharmaceutical, it has to be something that he was prescribed. If he was declined for MIB record, then it has to be something from a previous application, and you can narrow it down like that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It could also be.
What about criminal record?
Yeah, I was just going to say it could be criminal record too. DUIs, misdemeanors, things of that nature that hang out, no matter how long, misdemeanors will be on there no matter how long it's been.
When I have been declined for criminal records, they have, and I've had this to UHL and I've had this to Mutual of Omaha, they'll give us a number to call to verify that it is him. And, that happened to UHL and that happened through Mutual of Omaha. But they also specified to us it was due to criminal record.
Okay. No, that's good. It's all three. I mean, those are kind of the three main areas. I mean, it's either MIB, it's pharmaceutical, it's it's criminal records. Sometimes they'll hold applications up if you're doing e-apps and let's say you signed in one area in a different part of the application. It says that you signed in a different place in the state. Just get in the habit of not doing that. That's going to throw a big red flag in the suitability department. Because again, all the electronic apps, guys, every single electronic app has a geotag for exactly where you signed it. So don't get in the habit of just signing them wherever you think you want to sign them and signing them like, well, I'll do one part here and then I'll do another part when I get home. That can get you in trouble. Just saying. So anyways, that's a little side note, but that's a really good question, Charlie. I appreciate you bringing that up for sure. All right, well, let's get into the meat of the call. I really want to focus and be intentional today about helping you guys with a couple of takeaways that have been really impactful for Jen and I, both as a couple as well as in the business. Sometimes you do things and you don't realize that they're pointing you in a good or a bad direction. And I think I would assume anyways, if anyone wants to say otherwise, let me know. But does everyone on this call want to be more intentional, more focused, more efficient, more successful, more intentional about where they're going in life? Is there anyone on this call that doesn't want to be more successful? Because it's probably not a good call to be on if that's what you want to be. Okay. And so here's what we want to cover today. We want to specifically talk about, and we want to make this very, very transparent. Okay. This is the first time I think that my lovely wife is going to be on one of these recorded calls. So this is pretty exciting. But we do want to go over morning routine, why it's important. We're going to be highlighting a lot of stuff out of the Miracle Morning. We're not doing this to promote necessarily the Miracle Morning. We just feel like it's a very good process to really create good structure inside of your morning. And the video that hopefully everyone watched that I posted yesterday with, I think it was Jim Quick. And I know Elazar loves Jim Quick. I know a couple other people have said that they really appreciate some of his stuff. Really said some key things in there about if you guys can get really good about controlling the very first hour of your day and the very last hour of your day, like own those 2 hours. Okay. Don't let anyone else conquer those 2 hours. And some of you might say, well, maybe it's 2 hours each side, and that's fine, but own that time, because it's the only time that you're not going to be reactive. If you can control those times, most of us in this business get an email. I don't know about you guys, but I've been ready to present in a home, and I'll get an email that'll pop up. I've got one of these phones that there are these watches that pops up on my wrist. I'll get an email, and right before I'm ready to give a presentation, I look at my phone and it says, "You have a policy conservation at Mutual of Omaha." And you're going, "Oh man," and you're frustrated and you react to the situation, and then you get into the wrong mindset. So during the day, it's very easy to be reactive. Okay. And what we're going to try to do is teach you guys something you can implement that will teach you how to be intentional rather than reactive in your very beginning hour and also in your very last hour from an intention standpoint. So we're going to kind of have a candid conversation back and forth. We'll start out with this. Success is something you attract by the person you become. That was written by Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn.
Okay. An extraordinary life is all about daily, continuous improvements in the areas that most matter. Robin Sharma.
So we want to teach you guys 6 personal development tools, okay, today. And I hope you guys are taking notes, okay? Yes, I am recording this, but I'm hoping you guys take notes on this. We want to teach 6 personal development tools that make up, in the Miracle Morning, they call it the savers, the life savers. And how this is going to help you guys is, again, it's going to create structure. It's going to create intention around 6 key areas that if you look at successful people, all successful people do these items to some extent, okay? And we're not saying that you have to do it exactly the way we're doing it, okay? You're going to learn that there's a lot of flexibility here. It isn't about doing it in an exact way. It's about just doing it, period, okay? Jen, I'll just ask you, have I always been a morning person?
No, and you still struggle with it.
So you probably would have never caught me dead getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning back in my college days, okay? In my mid-20s, my late 20s, even my early 30s, and now that I'm unfortunately past the mid-30s and I'm into my latter 30s, I still by nature am not a morning person, okay? I know Jeffrey and I we were kind of chatting back and forth, and Jeffrey Brown said, yeah, I've always been fortunate enough to always be a morning person. Some of us are not always morning people, okay? What I want you guys to understand is you're intentionally not a morning person, or you're intentionally a morning person, one or the other. You are intentionally either one, okay? So when we get to the end, some of you are going to go, hey, Mike, I get it, makes sense, but I just don't do well in the morning. I'm asking you guys to please withhold from that limiting mindset as we go through some of this. Just make sure that we're intentional about the direction on this. So the first lifesaver, the first personal development tool is what, Jen?
Silence. Why do you say my name for that? Because I'm silent.
I don't know. Take it for what it is. So S in SAVERS. So we're going to go through the acronym SAVERS. The S in SAVERS stands for silence. Mahatma Gandhi said this, in the attitude of silence, the soul finds the path in a clearer light, and what is elusive and deceptive resolves itself into crystal clearness.
And then Matthew Kelly said, you can learn more in an hour of silence than you can in a year from books. That's interesting. So
again, I'm going to ask you guys this. How do your mornings look right now? Are they chaotic? If you've got kids, are kids running around trying to get them out to school? Like what, how does our morning look like after 7 o'clock?
Well, it's nonstop. We go like After 7, it's nonstop. And what it looked like before this is that before the Miracle Morning and all the morning routine that we started, we were getting up right at 7, and Mike would look at his watch and be like, oh, I got to get on the call in 30 minutes. It's like, I gotta grab breakfast and get in the shower real quick. I gotta go. And I'm like, okay. And then in the meantime, the girls are coming in and, Mama, I'm hungry. And then I'm getting like emails and messages from agents, and I'm checking. It's really chaotic when you first wake up like that.
So most of us, most of us, 7 o'clock hits and it's going to be that way.
Right.
Like the world doesn't really start turning at 4 in the morning. Okay. Like people aren't going to hammer you in the morning at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, but once 7, maybe 8 o'clock hits, I know in our home, and this is the way we've structured it in our home, 7 o'clock is when our kids get up. It's like they get up like clockwork.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not done with the things that we want to do before 7 o'clock, we may not get them done. Okay. So, the first S, what does your mornings look like? Silence reduces stress.
Mm-hmm.
It is very difficult to be stressed when it's silent.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris has talked about this. We've heard it many times. Meditation. Guys, I don't want you to think meditation needs to be one specific thing, okay? Meditation just simply means it can consist of prayer. It can consist of reflection, deep breathing, gratitude, being still,
Mm-hmm.
Being in a very reflective mode, not a reactive mode. That's the difference, because stress is created under reactive modes. Silence, which creates that much more calm, gratitude, being still, that's going to create a reduction in stress. And guys, it's not about doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about being silent, just being calm. Give yourself some time to be calm.
And sometimes this is really, really super hard for those of us with busy minds. I don't want to put a label on it like ADHD, but some people do. So if you have ADHD or if you have a busy mind, this is something that can be very, very challenging for us. And so what I've learned personally is that sometimes you need to focus on one thing. And what I mean by that is like choosing one word, like relax, and focus on the word relax. So you're doing, like, you breathe in, relax. And you do this over and over again until your mind has slowed down and you're just thinking about just that word. And then that's when silence actually can come into play, because you've just now unwound all of that energy and all that busyness in your mind. You sometimes have to focus on something intently and then just eventually let it go. So that's what's worked for me.
So guys, you don't have to sit there and be silent for hours on end. Okay.
No.
We're going to talk at the end about our routine. We're silent for 5 minutes. That's it. We let our minds be calm. That's the way we start in the morning. 5 minutes, be calm, be silent. And then we move into the second section. The second section is A for affirmations. So savers, S is silence, A is affirmations. If you're like most people, okay, most people tend to spend most of the day affirming the wrong things. Okay, they'll say, "Man, I'm stupid. Man, I'm fat. Man, I eat too much. Man, so and so across the street has more money than me, and man, I don't have a nice car. Man, it's just negative after negative after negative after negative, and by doing that, you are affirming to be negative."
And it doesn't have to be in material things either. It could be like, oh man, I don't have enough time to do this. If only I could make this, but man, I don't have that time. Time is a huge issue for all of us. And if we constantly tell ourselves that we can't do it, we won't. I mean, we just talked ourselves into not doing it.
Yep, absolutely. there's a couple of quotes that we thought were important. Most of you probably know who Muhammad Ali is, one of the greats. It's the repetition of affirming that leads to belief. Once that belief becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. So a lot of you guys don't continually say the things that you want to affirm in your own life. For instance, I want to be a great producer. I want to produce $20,000 a month. I want to be a great producer. I want to produce $20,000 a month. I want to be a great father. I want to be a great mother. I want to, I am a good father. I am a good mother. Like affirming the things that you maybe aren't currently, and you may not feel like you are a lot of the time. But by consistently training yourself to think in that manner, your brain, while I know your brain is an organ, it acts a lot like a muscle. And so you can train, you can program your brain to think the way that you want it to think and to believe the things that you want it to believe. And if you don't believe it, you're not going to have conviction about it, and nothing's going to happen.
Right.
Good. Yeah.
So here's another quote for you by Florence Scovel Shinn. You will be a failure until you impress the subconscious with the conviction you are a success. This is done by making an affirmation which clicks. So finding what actually means something to you, not just saying what someone else says, but something that really truly clicks with you.
So there's something really, really interesting to, I don't know if some of you are nerds on this side or not, but scientifically our brains function in, there's connections, there's neuroscience that happens inside of our brain where things get connected back and forth when you repeat things. There's connections that happen. So the bad news is this. The bad news is that a lot of us have already programmed our brains to function exactly the opposite of what we desire. We have programmed ourselves already to think that we are failures. I could never be an agency owner. I could never be a top producer. I could never be as good as so-and-so. We're already programming, and we have since childhood. We have trained ourselves through elementary school, through high school, through college, through early parenting, that we aren't ever going to stack up.
And sometimes this also comes from even the most influential people in our lives at that time. So maybe your parents or maybe really good friends have always had that negative impact on you and basically told you you weren't good enough. And so now you're believing that, but it does not have to define you. You can actually change your belief on that.
Yeah, and here's what we want to get kind of nail the point down before we get to how to create an affirmation. If we don't choose to do something about this, if you consciously do not choose to change the way you think, okay, our potential is going to be crushed. Our lives are limited by our fears, by our insecurities, and by our irrational thoughts, and by the limitations of our past. So if unfortunately, that's bad news. If you choose not to do anything about it, that's where you're at, okay? So some of you, I want you to really be honest with yourselves. Think about how you've been talking to yourself and affirming yourself up to this point, okay? Now, here's the good news. The good news is that we can reprogram our minds, okay? So we're not left where we're at. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
I'll tell you an example of how you can do that. Some of you know that I'm a health coach. And so one of the things that I tell my clients is take a dry erase marker and write on your mirror 5 things that you think are okay about yourself. So, something that you might look like maybe an attribute or a character, whatever it is, write 5 things. And then when you get out of the shower in the morning, read to yourself those 5 things every single day when you get out of the shower, because when you get out of the shower, you're standing in front of that mirror in your most vulnerable moment. You see yourself naked. There's nothing there. And this is what you're telling yourself every morning by looking in the mirror. And then eventually, these are things that are going to start, these are things that will change in your life, and you'll start believing them and living them. And that's what we were saying. That's the good news that we can do with reprogramming it. And that's just one thing that you can do. These affirmations are the others.
And I want to encourage you guys on the affirmations. I want to encourage you that to dream big. It doesn't have to be small little things. It can be,
right.
I am wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
I have $1 million in my bank account. Like, tell yourself what it is that
right.
you're going to become, and it doesn't have to be about money, but tell yourself the things that you are going to become as if you already are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You have to train your brain to think that way, because once your brain recognizes that you can be that way, it'll all of a sudden kick into gear and it'll start doing it. Okay, so here's 5 quick steps, okay, to create your own affirmation. We're going to provide you guys with the affirmations that we use, but we're going to go ahead and share with you 5 steps to create your own, okay, your own affirmation. Step 1, what do you really want? What do you really, really want? Doesn't have to be money. What do you really want, okay? Why? Step 2, why do you want it? Step 3, whom are you committed to being to create it? And that's tough sometimes, guys. Whom you are committed to being to create it. Step 4, what you're committed to doing to attain it. Okay? And then add inspirational quotes and philosophies into the discussion. So I want to go through real quick. Jen, do you want to go through your affirmation? Do you want to share with them your
Sure.
affirmation?
I'll show it for those who have theirs. This is what my affirmation looks like. It's super, super pretty. I like to bullet journal. So I'm going to read to you my affirmations real quick. Number 1, I am worthy, deserving, and capable of achieving extraordinary levels of success in all of my goals as any other person on earth, and that the only thing that separates me from those at the top is my level of commitment. I am 100% committed to becoming the person God needs me to be through daily personal development and living with daily discipline. 2, I commit to reviewing my affirmations at least once per day, then immediately taking the actions necessary today to take me where God wants me to go. 3, I will no longer settle for less than levels of success and fulfillment that I am truly capable of and deserve. I have a responsibility to live my life to the fullest and achieve my goals in order to set an example for those around me. To create the life God provides in my efforts, I can wait for some day or some year in the future. Now is my time. 4, I fully realize I can sustain no success unless it is founded in God, truth, and integrity. I will always keep the well-being of others in mind and engage in no activity that is selfish or does not benefit all whom it affects. I will eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism by developing a love for God and all humanity. I will cause others to believe in God because I believe in Him, in them, and in myself. 5, I will repeat these affirmations aloud once a day with full faith that God will gradually influence my thoughts and actions so that I will become the humble, successful person that I know I can be. Today is the best day of my life. Now, these affirmations, I designed to be my own, specifically geared around my religious beliefs. That does not have to be yours if that is not what you believe, but this is what I have done personally.
Yeah, it's important. And guys, we're going to share with you an affirmation that you guys can use that's very, very neutral.
Right.
Okay. That'll be very similar to what Jen read, but will be very neutral. As you guys read through it and as you affirm yourself every single day, you might look up and say, hey, Mike, I want to write my own. I want to write exactly what it is that I want for my life personally. So what we've done is I've got a couple of things. I'm going to share this on the screen, and I will also share this with you guys after this discussion. Is I've got this self-confidence affirmation. It's modified from Think and Grow Rich. It's done for our agency. Yes, this is a lot of this is pulled from the Miracle Morning. So if you guys read the book, you'll see how this pulls in as well. But guys, it's pretty simple. Read this every day. I'm a big believer of signing what you think is important. It's the reason why we sign legal documents. Guys, make a commitment to yourself to affirm yourself every single day. Affirm yourself. Tell yourself what it is that you're wanting to do, who you're wanting to become, how you're going to do it, what you're going to do, what you're going to sacrifice to achieve it. And I promise you, if you do this for weeks and weeks and months and years after year, you're going to be successful. Your brain can't do anything but what it is that it's told to do. So I really want to encourage you guys to really be very intentional about the affirmations that you tell yourself in the morning.
Absolutely.
So that's the affirmation part, and we got 15 minutes, Jen, so we're going to have to blaze through this.
Let's go.
All right, so the third part, V is for visualization. I didn't realize how much I did this without even thinking about it. And I owe the visualization to the time that I spent playing golf. Again, those of you that are aware of, I enjoy playing golf. I have for a long time. One of the greatest golfers of all time, Tiger Woods, along with Jack Nicklaus, a lot of the other tops, the greats, will tell you that every single shot that they hit, they knew exactly what it was going to do before they hit it. They visualized what was going to happen, how it was going to leave the club, where it was going to go, how it was going to land, what it looked like, what the wind was doing. And even to the point where they got to the end of a tournament, and they'll get oftentimes asked, hey, what does it feel like? Hey, did you know what this was going to feel like? And oftentimes the response was, I knew exactly what it was going to feel like because I already knew I was going to win. I already thought about it. I knew what it was like to hold the trophy, to have the people applauding me. I already visualized it for months before it actually happened. That's what we're talking about. There's a couple of quotes. Did you want to say something? Sorry.
Yeah. Visualization for me looks a little bit different. It's not looking at the bigger picture. It's looking at today. Because I can't look beyond, for the most part. I can visualize, like, yes, but not. I have to know what I'm doing today.
We're different voices, if you can't tell. Okay.
Today. So for me, visualization is what am I going to serve for breakfast? How am I going to do with my children? And most importantly, the intentions that I set for the day. Where are they going to play out in my day? And what do they look like? How will I implement it? And how long it will? I mean, I play out all those intentions very, very detailed, as much as details that I can get, because I know then I can just play that out in the rest of my day, and that's how it's going to go. So
a couple of quick quotes, and then we'll go into like some things you can do with visualization. Ordinary people believe only in the possible. Mm-hmm. Extraordinary people visualize not what is possible or probable, but rather what is impossible. Mm-hmm. And by visualizing the impossible, they begin to see it is possible. That's Sherry Carter Scott. The second one, Robert Collier, see things as you would have them be instead of as they are. Mm-hmm. Guys, you can be the change. You can do it. Mm-hmm. You need to visualize how you want your agencies to change, how you want your family life to change, how you want your finances to change. Visualize it. Get engrossed in training your brain to think about the things that you desire that you don't have, and they will begin to come to fruition. There's 3 quick steps that we'll go through, and then we'll move to the next one. First of all, get ready. Okay, when you're visualizing, make sure that you're in an atmosphere where you can visualize. Don't do this when the kids are running around crazy. Okay, it's really hard to visualize. I tend to have it pretty quiet. So sometimes when it's even louder than I want to in the home in the morning, I put on my Bose headphones. I put the noise cancellation on, and it's quiet. Okay, so I get ready so that I can actually visualize what I want to visualize. Secondly, visualize what you really want. And then visualize who you need to be and what you need to do in order to get what it is that you're wanting. Okay? So those are real simple steps. Okay? They're not complicated. Some of you might have heard of vision boards. That works for those of you that are artsy and that you're very visual oriented. It doesn't really do it for me, and that's fine. Okay? That's totally okay. But for those of you that are that way, it might mean that you make a vision board and you put up, certain pictures of places you want to live or things that you want or the person you want to become. I know that Chris and I have talked about this before, and on days that he's either feeling really on top of the world or maybe struggling, he'll be out searching for little villas in Spain, looking at what he's going to buy and what it's going to look like and the views and the ins and outs. I mean, he's visualizing what is his life going to be like, even though right now it may not feel like that's where it's at. Okay, so really important to visualize. The E in Savers stands for exercise. E is for exercise. Robin Sharma. I love this quote. If you don't make time for exercise, you'll probably have to make time for illness. That is so true, guys. That's so true. Jen, you want to read the next one?
The only exercise most people get is jumping to conclusions, running down your friends, and sidestepping responsibility and pushing their luck. And that's by unknown. No one knows who said it.
We don't know who said it, but it's very true. Maybe no one wants to claim that one. So, guys, every day doesn't need to consist of you going 4 hours to the gym. We're not talking about you being like bodybuilders here, okay? We're talking about being intentional, about being healthy, okay? Doing something every day, something. It could be yoga. I know we've gotten into some yoga and stretching, things of that nature in the morning. It could be yoga. It could be walking your dog. It could be taking a run. It could be going to the gym. I've never been a gym person, okay? My wife is grateful that I have now decided to intentionally change that mindset. That's what it did. Okay. I had to change my own mindset towards the gym, and I'm seeing results. I'm getting stronger. I'm looking better than this mugshot. Okay. I feel better about life. I feel like I can be a better father for my kids because I'm going to be healthy for them. Okay. It's a mindset thing. So yes, I do now go to the gym 4 times. We're talking about 5 times now a week, where it's an hour to an hour and a half. We're not talking about you guys doing that right now every day. Start with 20 minutes exercising. Start with 5 minutes if you have to.
Pull up a YouTube video. All you have to do is pull up a YouTube video. There's stuff in there from 5 minutes to the hours. Just pull up a YouTube video on yoga and do a quick one. Yoga by Candace is the ones that we do.
Yeah, just make sure that you don't get sidetracked with everything else on YouTube.
Yeah, for sure.
Be intentional, yes. Okay? Be intentional. So R, and man, this part has really become important to us.
Yes, absolutely.
R is for reading. A person who won't read has no advantage over one who can't read. Mark Twain.
Mm-hmm. Reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body, and prayer is to the soul. We become the books we read. Matthew Kelly.
Guys, reading is so vitally important. It is the only way that you can get information into your brain effectively and change the way you guys think, the knowledge, the skills, the things. And some of you do a lot of listening, audible books. I know Jen does.
Mm-hmm.
Some of you do a lot of listening. That's okay. I'm just telling you, please commit to some time every day where you're reading, where you're physically reading a book that's intentional towards where you want to become.
Yeah, they say that when you read a book, when you visually see the words, it actually is burned onto your mind. So it's not only, like, I love Audible, and I listen to, I would say, maybe 3 books a month or even more, depending on the size. But if I find a book that I really like that through Audible, I'll take that, turn it in and buy the book, and then reread the book and take notes in it, because I want to remember the content. It's just, reading has been just so monumental in our lives.
So yeah, let's break this down, okay? I would encourage you guys in the reading part of your section, okay, to read 5 to 10 pages a day. You don't have to read for 45 minutes or an hour, okay? That's not what we're talking about, okay? Baby steps. I started out in the gym twice a week. Now it's moved into 5 times a week, okay? It doesn't happen overnight. But 10 pages a day, think about this, guys. 10 pages a day is 3,650 pages in a year, which, if you take an average of a 200-page personal development book, is 18 books a year by just doing 10 pages a day. That's it. Consistently. And guys, what I'm hoping that you guys are getting from this is intentionality and consistency. It is not about the quantity, okay? That's not what it's about. I'm a concert trained pianist. A lot of you may or may not know that, okay? I took all the way through college. I studied with the orchestra. I am very good. I can say that not out of an egocentric mind. I am good at playing the piano, okay? And sometimes people will come up to me and say, hey, Mike, man, I really wish that I could play like you. And my gut response is, no, you don't. You just wish that you had what it took me 25, 30 years to create. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of sacrifice. It's a lot of playing the piano while all the kids were out playing outside, doing other things. So it's not about getting there over a quick period of time, what it took me 30 years to do. It's that every day I was consistent about practice, okay? And some of us are practicing the wrong things. We're getting really good at the wrong things, okay? So I want to encourage you guys to read. Tomorrow, we're going to have our first session tomorrow at the end of our builders call, where Paul Montmoney is going to talk to us about our very first book that we're digging through, The One Thing. If you guys are reading that, you can incorporate that book into reading a little bit every day so that you're prepped and ready for Friday's call, okay? 10 pages a day. We're going to share again another library list. I think we've already done this once, but I'm going to share it with you guys again after this call. That if you don't know where to get started on a good book, there's a list of 40 or 50 of them on this list that any one of those would be a good read, any one of them. And if you don't know where to start from there, ask your upline. I'm sure they have some favorites, okay? So the last thing, which is quite frankly the hardest thing for me, okay, is scribing, is writing, journaling, okay? Diana Robb, I guess is the last name. Whatever it is that you write, putting words on the page is a form of therapy that doesn't cost a dime. Rolf Smith said, ideas can come from anywhere and at any time. The problem with making mental notes is that the ink fades very rapidly.
So true.
Okay. So I kind of experienced this morning. I'll just be very vulnerable here. I've learned that when I'm in the shower, being in the shower is my brain dump time. Like I literally, I don't think, I just thinking about things that are important to me. I've got a speech that I've got to give down at the May conference at the training. I kind of picked out the topic, and I was just kind of brain dumping on things and ideas and concepts. And I got out of the shower, dried off, went right over to my iPad, and I was just typing, like all this stuff that was in my head, right? I was journaling, okay? Now, in the middle of that, Jen was talking to me. She's like, hey, what about this, that, what? She didn't know what I was doing. And I had to say, hey, Jen, hold on a second. I'm getting all this stuff. I'm brain dumping all this stuff into my journaling, okay? Just hold on. So I'm typing. So I do stuff a little bit more journal that's a little bit more digital most of the times. I know Jen is much more on paper, but it is not her most favorite thing to do.
No. For me, I hate to write. I really hate to write. Yes. So basically what I have done is that I've set a timer on my watch, 5 minutes for journaling. And that 5 minutes starts when I have to write the day and dates in, okay? That's how bad I hate to write. So I'll basically what I've started with was the Miracle Morning has some journal prompts. And so I just started with their journal prompts. It was very positive and uplifting kind of things. And then it kind of spiked my thought process to write. And there's, most of the time I'll show you, this is like my journals. You see they're short because I hate to write. And this is what 5 minutes of writing looks like. So basically, I have finished the prompts that the Miracle Morning gave me. And so what I did was I popped on, I think, Pinterest, and I found some positive journal prompts that I could use. And so now I found a 30-day one that was all on positive thinking. So basically I'm going through each one for 30 days and using those for my prompts. But that's all I do. I don't brain dump and stuff.
Again, we're very different, and that's fine, guys.
Yes.
Here's what I want to do before, because I know
Yeah.
it's right at 10 o'clock, okay? There's different types of journaling. You can journal, you can do a gratitude journal.
Mhm.
You can do an accelerated growth journal. You can do a gain clarity, where you're struggling with certain things and you want to gain clarity on
Sure.
certain things, okay? Reviewing lessons. You can do journaling on what you're reading. I like to write when I'm reading, so that when I read something, I brain dump it into the document, I write it, and I write down what I want to remember and rewrite what I want to remember. Make sure you guys come to the May conference. I believe Brian Delaney is going to teach people how he has journaled over the last several years to create his ability to be able to give good speeches. It's mind-boggling, awesome, and simple, okay? So journaling can take all different kinds of methods. It's important that you choose a format.
Mhm.
Make sure you choose whether you want it digital or on paper. If it's on paper, get a journal, and then really just decide to write. It's not about writing the right stuff. It's just getting your thoughts out on paper, okay? So I'm going to go through the routine real quick, and then we'll be done, okay? We have a 60-minute routine that for us, we love this so much, it has turned into about a 2-hour routine, okay? So 5 minutes, silence. Okay, 5 minutes. Affirmations for 5 minutes. Visualization, 5 minutes. Exercise, 10 minutes.
Yep.
Reading, 20 minutes. Scribing, 5 minutes. Okay, we do that in the morning, every morning. We get up at 5 o'clock. We usually maybe don't start until 5:15, sometimes 5:30 before we get into it.
Sure.
But the idea is, for us, it has to be done before 7.
Mhm.
For you, it might be 8 o'clock with not having kids or whatever it is. But in our house, we've set it up to where it has to be done before 7 in order for us to be able to get this done. Do you want to say something? Then I have one other thing.
Yeah. As far as, logging all of this, the Miracle Morning does have sheets that you can track all of it down. Again, I do bullet journaling. And this is what mine looks like. I know those who are on the call can't see it, but I basically drew a graph and then put in there basically the Miracle Morning structure into my bullet journal. So there are ways to track this, and you can get it all down on paper, or it's just better to see it because then you can see how consistent you've been. You can do it digitally or write it out. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're going to see. So I hope you guys are seeing some consistency here. We talk about tracking in the business. We talk about how vital it is, how important it is. We're doing the same methodologies here. Tracking, are we following through with things that are important to us? We want to do the savers in the morning. We want to make that important to us. So we track it. We see where we went wrong. We see what we're doing right. All that stuff is a part of tracking. The last thing that we didn't talk about, and I'm going to send it to you guys, but it relates to affirmations. Every night, they teach in the Miracle Morning that you need to affirm the night before your intentions of getting up. It is very unique and it's very weird at first, okay? But it works.
Yes.
Trust me, it works. When you tell yourself you're going to bed I am going to bed at 11 o'clock, I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock, my alarm is set, I have intentions to get up, I will jump out of bed, I will do X, Y, and Z, okay? And my body only needs 6 hours of sleep. That's exactly what it needs in order for me to feel good. If you're telling yourself those things, it's funny because your brain believes it. So I'm going to send those as well. I'll share this stuff with you guys. We'll probably do some additional things as well as we go over the next few weeks. Did you want to finish?
And then one last thing is that the common thing that I hear over and over again is that I don't have time for this. Like 2 hours? Who has time for 2 hours of morning routine? Well, I will tell you, this is who I am. I am not only an executive assistant, I am a health coach and run my own business. I also am a homeschooling mom, and I am the health director for our church. I'm constantly going in some form, but this has become so important to me that the hour or 2 hours that I was watching TV at the end of the day is no longer important to me, because now I get all of this stuff done, and then I'm so intentional about my day. I feel so fulfilled at the end of the day that I've actually accomplished all of these things versus, man, I wish I could have done that. I was so intentional about getting up and sacrificing that last 2 hours. We go to bed at 10, sometimes 11, but no matter what, I get up at 5 o'clock, 5:30. And it's super, super important for me, because if I don't get this in, I don't feel fulfilled, because I have not set the intentions for my life.
Some of you I've talked to a few agents that have had just awful days, you know, like you've had 5 people port you, you've been yelled at on the phone,
Right.
like all this stuff has happened. What's really neat about this process is if you do the things that are for you, the things that you want to get done in the morning, the things that you want to read about, the things that you want to become, the things that are important to you and only you, if you get those things done, it doesn't matter what happens in the day, because you are one step closer to being the you that you want to become, irregardless of the reactive things that happen during the day. So guys, I really want to encourage you, be intentional about your first hour and your last hour. I want to challenge you guys to get up at 5 like us, okay? We're doing this. We're leading from the front, guys, okay? Get up at 5. Don't message me on Slack, because I won't respond, okay? Don't message me on Slack. But get up, be intentional about your day. I'll share with you guys some of these other items on Slack. Read the Miracle Morning. I promise you, if you implement it, it'll change your life.
Absolutely.
God bless you guys. Have
Bye,
a great
guys.
week.